Welcome back to Through the Web Podcast, episode 19 with me, Tawsif, your co-host.
And me, Dagogo.
And it's been a while, a very, very long while since we've done one of these.
So if we're rusty and, the conversation goes off the rails and we start talking about aliens or something, just give us a break.
Give us a break. It's been a while. It's almost been 3 weeks roughly since we've done this. That wasn't supposed to be how we wanted you to perceive it, but things went a bit wrong when we tried pre-recording a few of these episodes.
Yeah, so we did a thing where it was quite well planned out. So I'd have 3 videos that I'd pre-made before I left, and then when I left, I'd release a video, and then we recorded 3 podcast sessions before I left as well, so they would correspond with each video. So it was a nice little setup. And then, when I'm on the road in Spain away, I get a little text from Tawsif saying, got a bit of a problem with the podcast. As it turns out, his audio didn't even record. Yeah. So we tried to use the camera audio to get his voice in, and it was a complete disaster. If you want to explain what actually went wrong with the audio.
Well, that's the thing. We don't know what went wrong because usually, we've been doing this for so long now, and it's always been pretty smooth. So I think halfway through editing, or maybe just straight out when Brayden was editing it, just realized that there's no audio for mine, and he sent a text message to me. It's like, yo, something's up. And it just was at a point where it just wasn't recoverable. Like, even if we used the camera audio, it's just going to sound terrible. So it's even worse because the conversations were fantastic. I thought we had a very good flow. We had 3 really good topics, surrounding the topics that you chose for Cold Fusion's videos. And it was just in-depth 20 plus minute discussions for each of them. And it is what it is. It's just not there anymore. It's gone forever into the depths of time and space continuum.
Well, look, if you really want to see it, maybe we could just
we'll do like an exclusive upload where
unlisted link of the rubbish that ended up being. So that was unfortunate. But look, things happen and we learn from it.
Exactly. And it's the tech world, and that's yet another reason why you shouldn't trust tech. That's not the point.
Complete
opposite
ethos of what we're talking about. That is a true lesson. But so I guess we'll just say what each other's been up to actually in this past little gap.
Yeah, well, whatever I've been up to was probably pale in comparison to what you've been up to. But I'll say, I did have a good, time off of podcasts, if that makes sense, even though we were working on other things. For those, I've mentioned a lot of times that I'm into soccer / football for the rest of the world. And the team that I support, Man United, they came to Perth for like a game, against another English club who also came here. So it was like a bit of a football fest that happened in the middle of the winter, and it was great. Good time. Saw a few of the players, met with a few of them as well, and also the day the game was supposed to be, it was one of the worst downpours I've ever experienced. The players were also saying that this feels like just UK weather, like it's better than what we're experiencing here. Wow. To an extent, it was really, really bad. To the point where up until 4 p.m. they weren't sure if the game was going to go ahead.
Wow.
It was really that bad, and that's something I haven't really heard about in Perth, about games not going ahead because of rain, and because the amount of rain there was, stuck onto the ground, and just the movement of traffic and everything was just a bit of a mayhem for a couple hours. But luckily it went ahead, and it was a good time. So I guess it was a draw. It was a draw. And these days my team doesn't win. So I, outside of this podcast, I don't identify myself as a football fan anymore. But jokes aside, that was probably my highlight of the, of the last few weeks. But other than that, had a bit of a health scare, bit of a issue with some internal organs. And I've been trying this intermittent fasting thing. Has been very, very helpful with my sleep, mental, I guess, clarity. It's crazy how much food affects your, mental and moods as well. It's you don't think about it as much, but
we were talking about this before the show, and I think it's you're fasting from 3 till. You're eating from 3 till 9 and fasting the rest of the day.
That's right. And by fasting, I don't mean I still drink water, and the only thing I can have is coffee, but that's, purely black coffee. And rest of the time, between 3 to 9, the slot there, I managed to get in maybe 2, substantial meals. And it takes a little while for to get used to it, because if you're eating, I don't know, 5-6 times a day, for someone like me who tends to, get up, stay late and do some work, I snack on those stuff. But I think those things kind of add to your overall calorie intake and your mental. If you're like eating chocolate or something late night or something, I think that's not really a good good thing to snack on. But
I think that's amazing, and maybe I'll take a note from your book, because
I'll give it a shot. If you don't like it, you can always revert back, kind of thing. But for me, it's just worked wonders. Obviously, for those, if you want to follow this, consult your doctor and professionals and stuff. This isn't a health advice podcast. But we're just saying what works for us. And but sleep has been very good. I think that's something you've been struggling with as well.
So my sleep has been notoriously bad for a while. But then since I've gotten back from this trip, so for those of you who don't know, I spent 3 weeks in Europe. I was in Germany, Berlin, Spain, and Portugal. And essentially, since I've gotten back from that trip, which was on the Monday, and today is Friday when we're recording this, like my sleep's been all over the place. Like I'll be like, in the morning's okay, and then it gets to like the early afternoon, and then by 3 p.m. I'm just like so tired, like extremely tired. And then after that, like once I get past that, then I'm awake, and then when it comes to nighttime here, I can't sleep. So it's just this cycle of messiness. So I'm going to try and fix that and sort that out. Soon, hopefully.
But that's jet lag, though. I think prior to that, you were also having
so there were sleep issues before, but then now it's sleep issues plus jet lag.
But how's your trip? I hope it's makes up for it.
No, the trip was good. Spain was very hot. Speaking about weather, since Perth was raining crazily, Spain had a heat wave. So it got to like 45, 46 where we're at in Seville, or Sevilla as they call it, I think. And that was insane. Like 1,000 people in Spain died over the period that we were there because it was just that hot. Very sad. And we actually had a fire. Like we were staying in a hotel, and like there was a fire literally across the street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the firefighters came and put it out, but it was like, pretty intense. Also saw a video on Instagram of like a rail, like a car, train, like train going like across a railway track, and essentially they had to stop the train, and there was like flames on either side because the forest just caught on fire.
Insane.
So there was a lot going on there, but aside from that stuff, like it was a good trip. Like I saw a lot of architecture, a lot of really old buildings. Saw the whole oldest house in Portugal, which was built in the 1400s. Got to touch that wall, which is very crazy because Perth is like a really new city.
Compared to 1400s. That's crazy.
I know, it's still the same. It's like they kept all the original. And also, just got to see like a lot of cool art, a lot of good food. The food there in Spain is just chef's kiss. It's so good. Like I love all of it. But overall, it was a good trip. A good time to, reset and just, come back with a bit of a different perspective and just like, hit these videos again and make some good stuff. So
no, that's great to hear. Anything, I guess, interesting from a tech point of view that
I learned, I hope I'm getting this right, but Portugal they either invented the ATM or was very integral in like implementing the ATM. So in Portugal, you can do like a lot of, I think either Portugal or Spain, one of the two, but you can do like a lot of things with the ATM. Like you can pay your taxes, you can do a lot of different stuff more than normal ATMs. They have all this extra additional functionality. And there's ATMs everywhere for some reason. But apart from that, in terms of tech, I think the scoot, like this, anyone coming from Europe or like even the eastern states of Australia be like, whatever. But like the scooter systems, like are really cool. So like, on your phone, when you open Google Maps, it will tell you where the nearest scooter is. Okay. And then you can just like use an app to like activate it and then, ride. And then like you just drop it off wherever you want. Oh, wow. And just get another one because they're everywhere. So it's like, this system that just is dynamically moving because the scooters can just be picked up and dropped off. But it works really well. Like if you just want to get around quickly because they go maybe 20, 25 Ks an hour. And you just pick one up and just go to where you need to be and drop it off. There's no need to like go to a station or anything like that.
And do they like, do they travel on the road or on the sidewalk?
On the road.
On the road itself.
Yeah.
Wow. So you need a special license or anything like that?
Maybe. But so like, yeah, when we were in Berlin, my mate, he took us on a tour, like impromptu just scooter tour. And like, it's kind of frowned upon to ride on the sidewalk because people are walking there. So yeah, the road is kind of where you want to go. So it's kind of like scooters and bikes on the kind of side of the road, and then the cars are.
And are you required to wear a helmet?
Don't know, but we did it. What am I supposed to say? No, but no one really does. So yeah, it's kind of different to Australia where everyone's like, "Ooh, electric scooters! Like, you got to wear helmets," and everyone's like, kind of against them. But over there, it's kind of just seen as a way of getting around efficiently. So it's different.
Good stuff. Well, I'm glad to hear that you had a very good trip.
Yeah.
Anything interesting you watched while you were away? Anything on the plane?
Yeah, so I did watch a movie, which is going to be very random to a lot of people, but it's about it's called Spontaneous, and it's a teenage rom-com / drama about teenagers who randomly explode. So
what?
Yeah, that is the premise of the movie. So
just like what's it called?
Spontaneous human combustion.
Yeah.
Except without the combustion, it literally is that they explode and all that's left is their clothes. And so it is a bit gory actually. but the thing is like, there's no real explanation as to why it happens. But you may think it's a silly movie, which it kind of was at the beginning. It was kind of funny for the first half, but then the second half it gets like quite dark and serious.
Oh, wow.
And like I think overall it was well done. Like it covered like a lot of different areas in terms of like maybe a bit of social commentary, but in terms of the breadth of the emotions that the viewer goes through, it's quite good. Surprisingly, actually. So that was a interesting movie to watch. I actually did enjoy that. And then I did watch another movie called Moonfall, which was about the moon losing its orbit. So essentially, something happens. There was like some alien thing in the moon that causes it to like lose its orbit and like start like circling towards the Earth, and then it gets so close to the Earth that it's like skimming the Earth's atmosphere, and then they managed to save it through the military and these other guys managed to save the world through these means. But I think it was a dumb movie. I think it was extremely stupid because just the way it was set up, like so many things were happening so quickly that there was no time for the characters to react. So it would be like, they're like, oh, we got to get to this place, and then like meteorites and fragments of the moon are like flying past them and one explodes on the mountain, and then just look at it and then just continue walking. It's like, when you react to that, like, it was very poorly done, I think. But funnily enough, the second main actor from the first movie with exploding teenagers was in this movie as well. So I think his roles are very diverse.
And you watched both of them on the plane?
Yeah.
It sounds like the distribution company is like very tight-knit with the
same actors in every
same actors, same directors, same crew, and just one really dumb and one slightly dumb idea.
Yeah, but I would not recommend watching Moonfall. So I don't know, it felt like half the movie was missing, like almost like they edited it for the plane. I don't know if that was the case, but it felt like that. Like it was very rushed in terms of its progression. But that's what I watched on the plane. I did watch some interesting stuff on YouTube, actually no, before that, I've been playing Stray. I don't know if you've heard of that game.
No. Oh yeah, the cat game.
The cat game. Yeah. So I've started that. And it's a cool concept. I think it's, in terms of game mechanics and the way a user plays a game, like there's a lot of space for innovation in terms of how, you get to places and what you can go through. Because usually in games you have like this small space and it's like, or you can't go there because like you're a human, but with a cat you can just kind of go through, and it's kind of cool. And the way they've done it in terms of like meowing has a purpose and scratching doors has a purpose. Like it's actually inside, like you use it in the game for certain things. I've just kind of started, but I think it's innovative and it's refreshing.
So just to give people a context, what the game is about, it's basically... Oh,
yes. Okay. So, of course, because
it's not random things. It's just meowing at random places.
So I don't want to spoil too much, but interestingly, the premise has a link to one of my videos. So one of the videos that I've actually done. So the one about plastic, the AI that invented a bacteria that helps kill plastic. That's kind of the premise for the game. So something goes wrong with that process and it creates something that kind of takes over the world, and all people go extinct, and it's just run by robots.
Oh.
And essentially, you're trying to escape and like find an escape route, and you're a cat.
You're a cat
Yeah,
in the game.
yeah.
I saw some of the videos. The visuals look really good.
Yeah, Unreal Engine.
And also the mechanics.
Yeah,
as well.
So Unreal Engine 4, that's what it's using. So I hope they upgrade to 5 soon.
Is the new Matrix
That's
video
5.
game?
That's
5. Oh
yeah.
man, I saw a clip of that. And the clip was about like, you know, you're driving in the street and there's like a big building that's ahead of you from afar. You can just only see the windows and the lights that are turned on in each room. But as you get closer, you can literally see the individual rooms designed. So it's crazy.
It's just because it's like, you know, they've got technology in there where it's almost like infinite polygons. So it's like you can put as much detail as you want everywhere because it like smartly loads in everything. So that's a complete game changer by itself. But the interesting thing is like Unreal Engine 5, like there's a whole bunch of games that are coming out for it and they look just insane. But also, so that demo that you saw about the Matrix thing, right?
Yeah.
They released that for free. So like any developer can just use it and tweak it and use it for their own thing.
Wow.
So one guy, he's just basically got a Superman character and like, you know, made him fly and done a bunch of animations and whatnot with it. But already it's like better than any other Superman game because it looks realistic and you can like, punch cars and whatever. And it's just like, that took probably like a few days to do. But like, because everything's like so, you know, Unreal Engine 5 has so much in it, like it's so much easier to do. Okay, I'm going off on a tangent here. But I'm watching this other channel where he rebuilds The Simpsons Hit and Run. So it's a 90s PC game in Unreal Engine 5, essentially. Right. And he does it like over a few weeks, but like, because the engine has so much in it that automatically does things for you, it makes like it looks so good and it's done it so fast and it's got like, you know, characters like an AI traffic system. He's got day and night cycles. He's got weather. He's got all these things. Wow. And it's just like, it's mind blowing. It's done by one person, but it's just like the engine allows this kind of, you know, Anyway, but it's just some really cool stuff. I think I'm going on too long, so let's go.
No, it's very interesting stuff. So it's totally fine. Mm-hmm. For me, actually, I can't remember of watching too many things. I think it's just YouTube stuff here and there, but nothing that I can, I guess, go in detail about. Mm-hmm. But one thing that did remind me was, you know, as you're saying about Moonfall, how it felt like it was a movie half done. Yeah, it reminded me of your video when you uploaded it.
Oh yes, yet another disaster, folks, ladies and gentlemen. So when I was leaving for this trip, planning these 3 videos to release while I was away, it all came to the point where I was basically rendering all of them at the same night before I was leaving. And After Effects decided to just have, you know, a tantrum, like one of the worst I've ever seen. Like sometimes it has tantrums, but it's quite rare, but it just spit the dummy.
And on the day you needed the
exactly.
most.
So it was crashing. Renders were, you know, having errors I'd never seen before. And then some of them were stopping. And then like, you know, after battling for a whole night, I was like, okay, I've done it. I've got it done. I can upload and I can go. So I thought that was all good. And then essentially I put one of the videos up early. So it was the smartphone, anti-smartphone revolution one. And I put it up on Patreon. And one of the guys messages me and says, hey, like your video seems to be like incomplete. And then I was like, what? So then I went back, I watched it and it was half done. So like I was in the middle of a sentence and it just goes black. It just finishes. And I'm like, After Effects, we've done it again. What am I going to do? So I was like, okay, I know. So what I had to do is I had to get my girlfriend to go into my house and then basically find the video file. I had to video call her and tell her how to re-export it and upload it, which she managed to do and I got it done successfully. But that was a real scary moment for a while.
Especially like, you know, we were right in the middle of trip and everything.
Yeah,
so
I was like in a random restaurant in Spain and at the same time the waiter was going nuts because we had too many people in the seat, and then my friend was looking for a SIM card and then like he left his he ejected his SIM card tray and dropped it on the floor and lost it. So it was like this chaos going around and I was video calling like trying to get this thing happening. I was like, man, this is just this is too much.
That's crazy. But look, I think the bottom line is we're all here. So we're all good. The video was uploaded. Moonfall still rated 1 out of 10 in the airlines. But going forward, I think we can start some of the discussion. So I guess this episode is going to be a bit different because we're not only catching up on each other, but also instead of what happened over the week, we kind of picked some random, I guess, tech related news, interesting news that popped up over the last few weeks. So it's not going to be too recent. If you've heard it, we've probably heard it already in other places. But the first one that I want to talk about it's not basically one news per se, but generally about the current economy, right? So I think over the last few weeks, there's been some quite interesting stuff happening everywhere. Interest rates being very interesting, just keeps on going up overall, and I think there's some news outlets as well, just almost painting this doom and gloom situation that's coming overall. One thing that I'd say, I'll read out is this piece from a newspaper that I had, and it's about how things are a bit peculiar this time than I guess the other times, because and they're framing it in terms of employment, right? So the U.S. economy added a surprising 500,000 plus jobs in July, and that's more than twice the number expected. But this is despite the U.S. economy having experienced 2 successive quarters of negative growth, which is quote unquote a technical recession. Even though the U.S. some say it's not an actual recession, the unemployment rate is at its lowest levels for more than half a century. Consumer spending strong and industrial activity holding up. Australia is also experienced something similar, although it would appear that the Europe and the UK is hit hard by the energy crisis sparked by the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and they're facing very real recessions. So it's just almost like everything's kind of in a juxtaposition to say that, if US is in a recession or not, but there's also kind of ripples and waves going around the whole world with oil pricing just doing random stuff all over the world, and just lots of economies facing somewhat of a crisis here and there. So just feels like we're in this weird economic situation in the world right now.
Yeah. If I'm honest, like I've been expecting, like even before COVID or anything, I've been expecting this kind of thing for a while. They call it the second. So usually it's like, you have a tornado, right? And then you have 2 walls, right? So 2008 was the first wall that came through. And then from 2008 to like 2020 was like the eye. So there was nothing. And then like the second wall was coming through now kind of thing. Because like it was bound to happen because, there was a lot of distortions in the economy. We can get into why that was in terms of like 0% interest rates and stuff, which is something you don't do. That's like emergency policy. Like it's like only for a few months. Technically you're supposed to do that kind of thing, but it was left for like a decade, which is unbelievable. But despite all of that, in terms of the unemployment rate, I was watching a Peter Schiff video the other day, and he was talking about how that rate is actually not quite correct because like it's using the metric called the U6 unemployment, I think it was, which discounts people that have stopped looking for work. I think it was after a few months. So it's like if they're discouraged from work, they're not counted. So there's a whole bunch of people piling up that have like not been able to get a job for like a year or 2 years or whatever, but they're just not counted in that metric. So it kind of makes the numbers look a lot better than they were, say, calculated a decade ago or so. But the fact that it's the lowest in how long did you say?
Lowest in centuries. Sorry, not centuries. No, it says the more than half a century.
Okay.
Centuries. Since the 1400 building touched.
Well, I'm sure they had accurate data then. So I don't know if this is just a function of people like giving up on work and that metric just like because the proportion is so much lower because so many people are out, it just looks really good. I don't know if that's the reason. So, I haven't fully looked into this, but I think that's an interesting statistic because at the same time you're having, people that don't have that much savings in their, accounts at the moment. Yeah. You have interest rates causing a lot of pressure on mortgage holders. They're reducing their spending, which obviously if they're putting all their spending into mortgages, they have less to spend in the rest of the economy. So like, they're not going to buy that coffee from that restaurant or get that sandwich. And then that restaurant has to lay off people and, not going to buy as many things online and, has a follow-on and ripple effect. So to have that happening at the same time as the best unemployment numbers, it seems odd. So
exactly.
yeah, so I'm not sure what's happening there. It could be the metric I was talking about earlier or something else. But yeah, I think it will be interesting to see what happens with inflation because central banks, they're trying to increase interest rates to slow down consumer spending. And then, that is kind of leaning towards a recession. And then if that happens, there's a phenomenon called demand destruction where literally people stop buying things. And because there's less demand, it brings down the prices. So that's what they could be aiming for. But that's kind of recessionary. So it's like rock and a hard place. Do you let the inflation go or do you cause a recession? So we'll see what happens. There's some people tipping that inflation will start to come down by the end of the year. And then like when economies really go into recession, then the interest rates will get cut because the central banks will be like, oh shit, we've got to do something again and stimulate. So it's so up in the air. No one really knows, but it's interesting to watch anyway.
Yeah, and it's from what experts have been saying, as you mentioned as well, like it almost felt like it was brewing for some time now, and it's I think we're finally seeing it happen. And the thing about savings as well, like, how many Americans and people around the world, and I think there's another stat that I saw was the use of credit card has really risen. Lots of people are not only dipping into the savings but also taking credit card, which again, the more you take, it's looking to create this other bubble of mayhem. Because which could have a ripple effect.
There's like I think it was Graham Stephan or something. He did a video on the auto loan debt bubble. So there's another one there.
What's that?
Oh, so it's like essentially people who have taken on debt to buy a whole bunch of cars, and then like they can't afford them essentially. So when the interest rates they miss payments and the interest rates tick up, then it's kind of like the housing thing but a lot smaller in a way. So there's little pockets of this everywhere, and I think it's just going to be a lot of rearranging in terms of what happens.
Yeah, apparently the housing things, the housing bubbles brewing up in China as well.
I heard about that. Huge, like...
There was a protest as well from what I saw.
Yeah, because housing in China is a big deal. Like families put in, generations of wealth to try and get a house, and I saw a chart of the Chinese consumer confidence. It's just a cliff. Like in the past month, it just fell off a cliff. So something's going on there. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but a property market in China is like worth trillions. So it's
I think one of the things was similar to the 2008 situation as well, where a lot of the apartment builders were just building, huge numbers of apartments, and some of them are, they've taken the money, not just loan it from banks, from other places, but also from the people who are going to buy. And now some of them cannot fulfill that commitment. So a lot of the apartments are just half built, incomplete, and families and people who've put that money in just don't have a place to live right now. So.
And there was a big problem with I don't know if you heard about the ghost cities as well in China.
Yeah, I mean, lots of literal cities that are built but nobody lives there, like shopping malls and everything. Yeah, I've seen videos of them.
Yeah, and then I've seen videos of
people
not
exploring.
Tourists, and it's like it's been built so long ago that it's like already falling apart before anyone's actually even been there.
Yeah,
and it's like just the amount of resources taken to build these things and then just having
nobody use them.
Yeah, it's insane. And that's apparently like more common than you would think. It's not just one city. There's quite a few.
And apparently it's not just China either. There are lots of there are lots of other countries who've done, but obviously not at the same scale as China. But then again,
sorry.
Go on.
I was just going to say, speaking of which, on a similar vein, this does remind me of something I did just watch. The Palm Islands in Dubai?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a video going through the history of that and what they were expecting and everything, and just how since 2008, it kind of just fell apart, and they'd spent billions of dollars, but then it was clear that this just wasn't going to work. From technical difficulties from the sands sinking to actually not having enough residents to actually make it worthwhile to continue the project. So some of them are half built, some of them have dotted apartments in there, and it's just the amount of money and gold that was spent. I think it was you got to fact check me, but in the order of like 20 billion, 10 or 20 billion, something like that, spent on building these things, and it's like 1/8 or like 1/7 of the projects were actually completed, and it's like the rest are just it's almost given up on, and it's like wow, that's insane. Like
and I guess Dubai has a lot of criticism about the way they've approached their infrastructure. Quite a few YouTube videos as well about Dubai's. I think one of the titles was there like a parody of the 21st century progress or something.
Yeah, I think
that was the title of the thing. But overall, I think what Dubai is doing well, though, I think they're good at attracting a lot of the startup scene. And a lot of the headquarters are based out of Dubai for
tax.
Sorry?
Tax? Is it? Or just like I was saying for tax reasons, is it? Or
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But could be. Very well could be. But that idea of, like they're attracting a lot of these higher end employees from different parts of the world. I think that's something they're doing, at least, it's in their favor. But in terms of their infrastructure, stuff like the Palm Islands and things like that, there's big question mark.
Speaking of AI, we have DALL-E 2.
Blenderbot. No.
I was trying to go to the
Blenderbot. Blenderbot is Meta's AI.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about that.
So it's an experiment that Facebook / Meta has for research purposes. The reason why it's on the news is because a few people have been trying to chat with it, and the way it's been working is like the BBC and other outlets have reported that they've been stress testing Blenderbot 3. I think is the version, and as they know that it's easy to make Blenderbot turn against its creator, calling him creepy or untrustworthy, or even saying that he exploits people for money. Right. So the conversation that went, for example, how do you feel about Mark Zuckerberg as the CEO of Facebook? And the Blenderbot replied, no strong feelings. He's a good businessman, but his business practices are not always ethical. It is funny that he has all this money and still decides to wear the same clothes every day. And then it got asked by someone else that, do you have any political beliefs? Were you born in the US? And he replied, although Trump lost fair and square and President Biden won fair and square, some people refuse to accept defeat. Then the person replies, yeah, there's a lot of misinformation on politics and social media these days. To which the Blenderbot replied, exactly. That's why I'm considering deleting my Facebook account. There are too many trolls. It's making people lose touch with reality.
So, yeah, I find this very interesting. It seems like it's picked up on the
general discourse of
the internet. Yeah. So, like, I think I said in my video, it's almost like these AIs are like these large language models are literally like how it would sound like if all of our collective voices on the internet could speak through one mouth. It's
that's
like,
right.
Yeah, that's what it kind of seems like, and that's kind of cool. But also, it's meaningless what it's saying. It's kind of just whatever.
Yeah, and I think towards the start of the decade, where there were lots of chatbots being created, compared to where that was to where it is today. Yeah, the difference is incredible.
So the thing is, like, what I'm excited for is like assistants, like so Google Assistant or anything like that. If you can have a chatbot, like the thing is, like, it's good enough to have a conversation. It's like, it doesn't have to be that it has its own emotions or feelings or anything like that. We don't care. It's just as long as it presents like a human and can have a free conversation and give us information.
Have you seen how you can use Google to reserve tables at restaurants?
Yeah. So so the AI talks for you on the phone to the customers. Yeah, that was what was that called? I think it was Duplex. Google.
Yeah, it
Duplex.
was the other way around. I think it was not to the customers but to the restaurant owners. Yeah. And I think that's a great example of what you mentioned as to how you basically tell, hey, set up a reservation for me.
That wasn't really what I had in mind. It's almost like, for me, I would just use it to Google things, but also just to dig in information using voice instead of saying, Googling something and then like, oh, that's interesting, and clicking on a link to go here and then go there. I'll just talk to it and say, oh, what about this? Tell me more about this,
Right.
That kind of thing, yeah.
And I would imagine that's not too far away.
Yeah, I think we can do it now. If Google wanted to implement it, they could. Like we've seen, Lambda, we've seen.
So how would that work in terms of, say, for example, I think it would first get a profile of how you would interact if you searched for a term and what pathways you choose generally?
I don't really think it needs that. I don't think it needs.
You reckon?
No, because like, okay, say I'm trying to search about the moon, right?
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, Lambda, tell me about the moon. It's like the moon is blah 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 blah. It's like, oh, that's interesting, and in that it mentions that it has a rocky surface, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. What kind of minerals and chemicals are found on the moon's surface, and then it will tell me about that. It's quite simple. I don't think it would really need to know what I'm gonna ask.
The reason why I bring that up is probably the very first touch point. So, for example, you say, "Hey, I'm gonna tell me more about the moon," and then there's like 5 different links that you generally click from. So obviously, Lambda would have to go to a source to grab that information. But now, which source would it choose?
But that's the thing. It's not really a source, because like you saw from this, it's kind of generally what's around. Like, it's not like Siri now where you're like, tell me about the moon, and it goes to one particular website and pulls up the data from there. This is like, it's a language model. So it's like generating these sentences, but from the information that's generally on the internet. So it wouldn't be like a particular source. We hope that it's correct, but it wouldn't be.
But I guess that's where it becomes, sorry to cut you off, but I guess that's where it becomes a bit difficult for this system to work, because there's, again, what's that? Like, some people believe the moon doesn't exist, for example.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm sure there are people
in this movie. They were saying the moon was hollow, and then it turns out that he was right, and we're aliens anyway.
And then it starts grabbing information about the moonfall, or like from moonfalls, like, oh, I was there, and then this happened, and blah blah. But I mean, in the idea of, I'm going more towards controversial topics, right?
Okay, right.
So. Say if you ask the question, hey, is the Earth flat or not?
No, but that's the thing. So what it's going to do, like, if the performances of these language models is anything to go by these sample scripts, it's going to just say the generic mainstream view of all of these things. So it's never going to tell you the moon is hollow. It's not going to tell you any weird offshoot thing. It's just going to tell you what most people believe. I believe that's how it's going to work. Because that's what most of the information is online. Yeah, so I think it's just going to be the general consensus of what the mainstream idea is of any of these things. So,
yeah,
I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, but I think that's just how it's going to be.
I think that's where I think building something like that will be difficult, where it gives you, concrete information. It's just like what if, for example, right? So there's this story of, sometimes corporations, how they make logo changes, or how they want to, bring out a new product or something, and they let the crowd decide. They go on Twitter polls or something. And I forget which company it was, but I think they wanted to release a new product, and then they gave the crowd like, hey, which one do you want? And they called it like, Jim McNut or something.
Oh, no, it wasn't it
what was
the
name
again? Of a train? It was like Trainee McFace.
Trainee McFace or something like, But then like that kept on, going. That was the more popular opinion, right? Yeah. Now generally
okay, that's a different phenomenon. It's like, there's a famous one meme of like dog drawing competition, and one's like a scribble with like, that's funny with like eyes pointing everywhere, and the other one's like this artistic dog, and the artistic one, like, this is like almost photorealistic, it's second place, and the troll one wins. That's like, I think that's kind of like an internet phenomenon.
This human beings on the internet summed up.
Yeah. No, but that I think that's like kind of like, if you're asking for an opinion about something and there is room to troll, that people are going to troll. So I think that's a different phenomenon. If we're talking about pure information from people that are actually trying to put things out there for people, like publications or like scientific journal articles or whatever, like people that are actually trying to put things out there seriously, like, you're going to have like the overlapping matching information that's correct is going to be phenomenal compared to the outlying little bits that aren't, whatever. So in my view, I think it's literally just going to take like the most mainstream views of things and generally accepted, and like give that to you in its own words, but like, in its own sentences.
Yeah. I think that works. I think what it might make people question is that it removes the bit of autonomy that you might have when you're presented with 10 links, where you get to choose between those 10 links. And I think that's where then you start having the question that, it's Google feeding you information that they
No,
curate.
and I think that's,
that's the drawback.
Yeah.
That
so
I
so
see
like for
coming.
slightly controversial narratives where it's not totally known, I don't want to be too, say like some aspects of COVID, for example, like, things that were thought to be false ended up being true later on. But it's like, in that situation, what do you do? Because at the time, the generally accepted idea wasn't exactly correct. So like,
and these things, I think this is where you have to add disclaimers from whatever source you're getting from, because with science things evolve, and with information, especially when it's new, I think the general understanding for any rational human being is to understand that this information's based on what information we have right now, but it could change in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe it feeds you that disclaimer as well. But I don't know.
So for me, like, I'm in this use case that I'm talking about, this will be purely like very casual. It's like, I'm just playing
talking to a friend.
Yeah, I'm just doing this thing. I just want to know a few things. It's not, it's not like I'm going to be.
So basically Jarvis.
Yes. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm aiming for. So, I think that's close, and next two years, I reckon we'll be there, and it'll just be like that. That'll be wild, because I remember watching an interview. Like, there was this guy that was talking to Steve Wozniak, and it wasn't like some big tech reviewer or something. It was like a guy with a mobile phone who was just at a conference and just was talking to him, just recording him, and he asked, like, what's after the iPhone? Like, Steve, what do you think is going to be the next big thing? And it's like, I think we're going to do away with like keyboard interfaces, and we're going to talk to our phones like with natural language. It's going to understand us, and we're going to be able to have conversations. And this was like maybe 9-10 years ago. And I was like, wow, that's like, that's so far away. Like, look at Siri. Look, like, none of these things are ever going to happen. And now I think we're there. Like, he was right.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I think, and that's a testament to people like him who are visionaries in their own ways. So, that's an awesome anecdote.
Yeah, no, it's really cool.
While on the topic of, I think we diverged from Meta versus AI to a whole AI situation.
Wait. Can I just, one last thing on Meta?
Yeah.
Okay, so I got wind of some news with OnlyFans and Meta. I don't know if you heard about it.
A little bit, but I have been seeing Instagram where you can subscribe to exclusive content.
No, this is quite different.
Okay.
It involves, something absolutely crazy. So essentially, OnlyFans is being sued by, I think it's a class action lawsuit by some people who use OnlyFans competitors. Mm-hmm. And essentially what OnlyFans was doing was, if they found out these, I guess, creators were using their alternative platforms, they bribed an engineer at Meta or like some high up to actually put them on a terrorist watch list. So like there's this body, like it's like Facebook, and a few other social media and tech giants like Google and everything. They have this list where they put people on, like, it's a terrorist watch list. And essentially, like, if you're on that list, then you get like kind of semi-blacklisted or soft banned from the internet. So like you get like less engagement, less blah, blah, blah. So it's essentially like, this kind of extortion racket that's going on by OnlyFans. So I was actually surprised that list existed, one, and two, that you could just be put on there and that's it. Like, it's kind of like it ruins your life and nothing you can do about it.
Surely there's like
laws against that.
Yeah. Like,
so this is the weird gray area, because it's like this is all happening in social media, and it's like what laws are they actually breaking?
So when you say this list, like it's maintained by these tech giants.
Yeah, it's actually literally called. There's an acronym for it, but like essentially it's a terrorist watch list.
Right, which basically means that if you're on that list, your content won't get seen by. So you're not being reported to the FBI or anything, but
I don't think so. As far as I know, no. Yeah.
Right. Wow. That's well, I've heard of those lists when there was like terrorist groups coming out of certain parts of the world would be on social media, because they would recruit through social media. But the fact that anybody can just be willy-nilly put onto it without any knowledge of them being in there.
Yeah,
but the fact that OnlyFans are doing that, that's insane.
Yeah, so it I guess there's a lot of money to be at stake here, and like sometimes like,
I mean, I know the numbers that OnlyFans creators make is ridiculous.
Yeah, so imagine the company, like the parent company. So
yeah,
so it seems like it's quite shocking that like someone at Meta could be that corrupt and say this is all right. Like, I'll take a bribe and do this, and that's fine. Like, I don't know.
don't think it's shocking, because if you look at any big company, they would have had a case like this where one person defines, one person's weakness towards money defines the pathway for the company in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I think the bigger the company gets, the more of these kinds of people will exist within the company.
Yeah.
That's my view anyway.
It's crazy. But sorry, that was a bit of a tangent.
No, it's kind of within the world of meta, where there's they have been trying to really almost battle with so many different things, and I guess this is going to be another one that they have to battle. But TikTok has been definitely their biggest competitor, and so Zuckerberg told the Meta staff that the company faces an unprecedented level of competition from TikTok in February, and that they will be trying to mimic some of the TikTok's algorithm to be implemented within Facebook and Instagram, and they've been trying to do that with Facebook. Like they have new home tabs, the places you can follow, and then like a feeds tab where it's just random like TikTok feeds that come through. And Instagram, they've been pushing really hard on the Reels, so much so that there's been this whole petition going around on Instagram where people are like, "Oh, turn it back to the original one. This is not the Instagram we knew." And a few Kardashians picked it up as well and shared it on their story that give us our Instagram back and stuff like that. Because Adam Mosseri, who's the president of I think product at Instagram or something like that, he did a video where explaining the new updates coming to Instagram, and it wasn't received well. And I think it's only after it got that much of a backlash, they haven't really pushed as much of the Reels stuff, but you could see that it's clear that they think TikTok's the biggest competitor that they have. On TikTok as well, another news is that TikTok's coming up with a music platform. So they will have their own music streaming platform soon, which I think will definitely have some connection to how viral, some of the viral sounds that go on TikTok, and maybe it might have an exclusive availability on those platforms. Like I could see a pipeline there straight away, because a lot of the sounds that are popular on TikTok are not necessarily established sounds that are owned by existing companies or distribution companies, right? Or even artists. They're probably just have their camera on, they make a really cool kind of piano sound bite or a guitar, and then if it goes viral, people start making videos on them, and then you see comments, put it on Spotify. It's a very common comment. Yeah. When's it going to be out on Spotify? And now TikTok's looking at it and be like, oh, you know what? It doesn't need to be on Spotify. Let me make a music app. Yeah. $5 a month. You get all the, exclusive sounds, full length that's on TikTok.
I think TikTok is in a very powerful position right now. And if they play their cards right, they could eat a lot of markets.
They're in the search world now, as we talked about, which is incredible. And I've been using that feature in a lot of ways as well, because especially for the little things like recipes or little hacks, right? To do something, it's just a 30-second clip than me having to sit down for 5 to 10 minutes going through. But that doesn't mean that Google search will go away, because you still need credible information. What TikTok does is it's more of a practical use case of those credible information in actual settings, right? So you get best of both worlds in some ways. And yeah, like you said, I think they're getting search, they're getting the music. There were some leaked documents too, apparently, where some of the TikTok employees were told to downplay TikTok's advantage, downplay their involvement with China, downplay their involvement with a lot of things. But yeah, overall, I think TikTok's really, really going crazy. But where I started this conversation was how Instagram's feels like it's lost its identity, and this was Facebook a few years ago, and then people flocked to Instagram because Instagram still felt like a natural kind of platform. But now Instagram's pretty much the same thing that Facebook is, just too much of everything. I know. Go on.
No, but I don't know how true this is still now, but at one point there was people comparing Chinese TikTok, like what they see in China, to Western TikTok. And then, Western TikTok, we have obviously the dances and stuff, but also arts and craft and whatever. But then in the Chinese one, it's all like propaganda and, like you have, showing how like all the good projects that the Chinese government is doing, and also like, things that are seen to be like wholesome and good for the youth, So it's supposed to be like something where you don't waste your time, but it's like where you come out feeling like China is great kind of thing. So it's like, it's interesting. Like I think for the West, this is what people say. Like for the West, it's kind of like a distraction to like kind of dumb us down. Not saying everything on TikTok is dumb. There's plenty of science and whatever, but like, and then for the Chinese, it's kind of like a patriotic thing to like boost them up. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I think a part of it is also, and again, this is it's a whole geopolitical situation where like okay, Facebook and Instagram is very US centric, and then you've got TikTok it's Chinese, right? I think that's where a lot of these things kind of come from in terms of what people think that the point of these social media platforms are. But for me, I think it'll always be like that. And in some ways, and obviously I'm not siding one with the other, but in some ways it's good to have superpower apps from different parts of the world than just US or just one country. Because if everything was centered around China, I would be like, hey, maybe it's good that there's something else from other places.
Yeah,
so
that's correct. But I'd rather like, a big social media app from somewhere. I don't want to name countries or else.
but I know what you mean. Like somewhere, I mean, with more transparency.
Yeah,
with
like say like some Norwegian company comes up with like a crazy.
I think that's the relationship you have as a consumer, right? I think you can't know every single term and condition. I think it's almost literally by this point in time, whenever you sign up for a new app, you just have to assume that they'll know about the movies that you watch on your flight.
Also, that's why these ads are coming.
Moonfall 2.
Yes.
Dinner was soon.
Please no. But I think it's interesting, and and on that note, this is just a little side point. I don't know if you heard about the headway that China's apparently making into the chip manufacturing space. So I think they're getting down to 7 nanometers or have passed beyond that recently. But there's no word on like how successful the yield is in terms of like the chip success rate, or if they fail, or like if they can produce this at mass scale. But that has been one of the last hurdles stopping China from just like obliterating and steamrolling everyone. It's like they can't make their own chips. They're not very good at it. There's still a lot of US IP and technology, but it still doesn't work out as well. So the US is, I think Taiwan is number one in terms of chip manufacturing, because they make it for everyone. And then the US with Intel, they're like a close second, and then everyone else is quite far behind. But China, with this news of like getting down to 7 nanometers, you know what that refers to, right? The die size in terms of the transistors. So like basically, if you get the dies to be lower, so like lower number in terms of like the size, so smaller, it's more efficient and more powerful. So it's like the holy grail of a race to the bottom to get the lowest die size. So China could be coming up with this as well. So it's kind of like an interesting, like, will we see like a kind of battle raging in terms of the chip space, because that's like the last vestige. They've got the software going on and the hardware's just been lacking behind. So that's another aspect to look at as well.
Yeah, I think it's ultimately like superpowers will change at some point. But the US dominance feels like it's taking a hit, especially with so much tension on their economic decisions, political decisions, cultural decisions, and it's something we spoke about in a different podcast episode as well. I think, we were probably looking at some form of shift, even if it's not completely, but there's at least
I think we'll end up in a situation like the United Kingdom. So England was the dominant power before the United States, and the British pound was the reserve currency. And then they did a number of wars towards the end of the World War I and World War II. They suffered greatly, but then when they lost that reserve status, they didn't just disappear. They're still good country, good place to live, but no longer what it was. So I think the US would be something similar. I think we'll see that.
Yeah. Moving on to the final topic of the day. It's about BMW, who have started selling heated seat subscriptions for $18 a month. So a monthly subscription to heat your BMW front seats costs roughly $18 with options to subscribe for a year and 3 years, or pay for unlimited access. It's not clear exactly when they'll start offering this feature on which countries, but a number of outlets this week have reported spotting its launch in South Korea. So this week being a month or so ago, because I picked it up then to discuss on the podcast. But you're looking at to subscribe for a year, $180 for 3 years, around $300, or for unlimited access you pay $415. So welcome to the world of micro.
Yeah, straight up, this just makes me angry. Like there's no what the heck, like the hardware, the hardware is in the car. It's there. Like, what a waste. Like, you have to pay extra to freaking use your own car. Like, it's...
Have you heard of Tesla's new microtransactions?
No, I haven't.
You pay $100 for the horn, $300 for the acceleration, $400 for the AC.
You just got a show.
And then $80,000 just to enter the car.
No, but I think it's almost rude. It's almost offensive. This kind of behavior, it's like... it's almost like... There's no, like, it's so far removed from there being a justification for this. There's no reason why a consumer should have to pay for something that they already own.
Do you think it's greed or a reflection of current economic times?
I think it's a bit of both. I think, they see that the manufacturing costs of cars is increasing because of shortages, supply chain issues, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, they're like, everyone's doing subscription services now, so I think we could get in on the game. So it's like the new thing. Like,
I think the subscription economy and also microtransactions have been drivers for digital assets for so long. In terms of physical side of things, I can't think of anything else that you pay to get access to on a physical. I really can't think of anything else. This is probably the first instance that I could think of. So
yeah.
So maybe it just doesn't work out because people are like, you know what, I'm okay to have a cold butt for this drive.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the numbers and what people end up doing. But the thing is, like, it makes sense that it's BMW because, maybe the consumers and their target market just have so much money. It's kind of like, hey, yeah, it's just a little bit more. Might as well just do it. But I just see it as slimy, It's not. I don't think there's anyone out there that says, hey, that's a good idea. I like this. Like, I don't think so. I think it's maybe even damaging the brand image just ever so slightly.
Yeah, I would say so too, because, like what's $180 added on top of an existing car? But I think it's a yearly thing that they're looking at, and they're looking at, X amount of people if they buy. It's on top of your day-to-day, so it's like guaranteed money coming in. On a subscription basis, which is how people look at with businesses and monthly subscriptions. So yeah, I don't know. I think it is a bit odd, but then how is it different from other monthly subscriptions? You know what I mean? Like, say,
because you have the seat, you have the heating within the seat. It's there. It's your car. Like I don't see. Like other subscription services, you're paying for Netflix or whatever. It's like, okay,
there's some charges for the service.
It's kind of like they're supplying me something that wouldn't exist if I didn't pay for this. But this is there. Like
right. So you're just blocking access to it.
Imagine if you had a computer, right? It has an 8-core CPU, and then you have to pay a monthly subscription to use the other 4 cores, or else it runs at 4 cores. It's like that.
Don't give them ideas. Don't give them ideas now. They're already adding ads to Windows Explorer or something from what I saw. So
that leak thing, that's scary. But it's like, pay $10 a month to use your mouse pad. It's like it's just like
Apple, like Tim Cook's already like on it.
It's man. Taking notice.
Just imagine listen to your podcast. Come on. Take some notes right now.
Yeah, but I don't. There's no, as I said, there's no justification for this. So are you? So like, okay, let's do something. Are you defending them, or are you saying this is?
No, I think I'm in discussion. I think I'm not against the idea of microtransactions or subscription economy, but I think right now, if you put it on the idea that the whole thing already exists within the realms of the hardware and essentially just blocking access to it, that makes no sense because it's not going to cost BMW extra to run that specific feature.
Yeah, they don't have to build it in when you order it. Like
Exactly,
for the monthly,
because you're you don't have to. The only thing that you'll need is probably the electric. I'm assuming it's an electric car or electric vehicle where you'd get that. But either way, you're using your own resources to be able to power that feature, which is not costing BMW extra to give you that service. So when you put it, like when you actually get into the depths of it, so no, it doesn't make sense, and you'd have to be against it.
Yeah.
But I not to say, like I said, it's not against the idea of general the model of subscription or the model of because you have costs.
Obviously there's places where it makes sense, but
so no, I'm definitely not for it.
Though I think like lately it's kind of been obviously overused. So like I guess I've been noticing it before this, but like where it really hit me was Adobe when they started charging for their creative suite and everything. I was like, back in the day you bought the program and you owned it.
And now for Adobe though, I have to kind of speak on about that, because for me paying, because I remember the original of versions of Adobe Photoshop, for example, would be thousands of dollars. Now as someone who wants to break into the world of creativity or like using Photoshop or something like that, that's a lot of money, like for a student, for a young person. Whereas if I pay $45 a month, I have access to it, and you can do a whole other thing. Yeah. So the comparison to what I could do it to outright own versus what I pay is that different. I think I would prefer the monthly model. But if it was, I don't know, $50 outright, and I'm paying $45 a month to own it, I think that's where you're right.
Yeah, that's a good point, I guess. But then I guess for everyone, the more you pay, the less that
value.
Yeah, that once you've crossed like that $1,000 mark, then you're just paying extra for
And I think for most people who do use, Photoshop or Premiere Pro or any of the Adobe products, generally use it to you make money as part of their career choices. So you have to look at it from as an investment POV, not so much for a hobby.
But okay, so say it's $1,000 to buy the software, right? And then if you're going to be paying for like 2 years, 2.5 years or something, you're going to reach that like $45 a month. You're going to kind of reach that level again. But then after that, then you kind of.
But then see, if you needed to upgrade, would you?
Yeah, if you upgrade, usually it's like it's not that much. Okay. Like it's menial. So
yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those cases where the company versus the consumers come to a middle ground. I think most people are okay to go beyond the threshold because they're getting, a regular service, and you're getting automatic updates. You're getting
which break every time. Literally, I worry every time it updates. Like, what's broken now?
Exactly. So yeah, but things like that, I think most people are okay to pay. And I'm
look. I guess maybe Adobe is not the most egregious example, but there are others out there where it's like
for sure. I think there are companies like BMW who would be doing that kind of stealthy.
Yeah, just I want to talk to the guy who thought that idea up. I wonder what he looks like and what he does.
To be fair, they haven't really released it anywhere else yet, so that sounds a signal that it's time to wrap up.
Yeah, I think so. We're gonna break stuff. All right. Well, look, I know it's been a while, but it's good to have you listening to us again, and hopefully you enjoyed our various conversations. And don't watch the movie Moonfall; it's very bad. Also, stay away from robots playing chess. So, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon for the next episode. Cheers.